All right. Happy Monday, everybody. This is your host, Crystal Jordan, and we are here back with Reality Check, wrapping up this season of Ready to Love. There's been so much, so much that happened on this season. The last interview I think we did with Miss Dakia, and that interview was you guys liked that one a lot. She had a lot to say. She had a lot to actually share with us that we did not know. And so now today we are back. We are talking with the man himself. Paul is here. We have been trying to get this interview with Paul, and we're here. So he's here. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring the man himself on.
Yes.
Happy Monday, Paul.
Happy Monday right back at you. Been a long time. This has been in the works for a minute.
Yes, we have tried. Like I said earlier, third time is the charm. I want to make sure, because I know there was a lot of talk and people speculating, that everybody knows that the issues were not between us. There was not an issue with Paul not wanting to do the interview with me.
No, I never had first off, let me just tell you that I have so much respect for you and your work, your professionalism and everything else. So
thank you.
It has nothing to do with you at all. There were some things that I thought I needed to work out on the back end outside of this process, this interview right here.
Mm-hmm.
So I got it all figured out, and here we are.
Here we are. So I want to tell everybody out there that is watching, because I know a lot of the cast members watch, a lot of people that may be getting ready to get on Ready to Love watch. So I want to make sure before we get into this interview, I clear up a few things. Number one, I do not work for OWN, right? I work for Crystal Jordan. I do things for Rolling Out as well, but this channel, this YouTube channel, belongs to myself. The Facebook is for Rolling Out, and it is not. OWN is not. We work with OWN, of course, to get interviews, but we do not work for OWN. So I just want to make sure that everybody out there knows that. Second of all, I'm just going to say this to people that are going on reality shows. Of course, Reality Check is all about reality shows that we do, right? A lot of urban, anything that represents us. And myself being a former entertainment publicist and working with celebrities, I think it's important that when you get ready to go on a reality show, one of the biggest lessons is you want to make sure that you utilize media in your best interest. So I think there's a lot of I don't want to interview with this person, or I want to do this over here. And I think at the end of the day, what I would tell people, and again, I only want people to come on the channel that want to have a conversation. If they don't want to, that's perfectly fine. But my advice as a publicist would be to always make sure that you are as agreeable as possible to media, because media are the gateway to the public, right? And you want to be able to share with the public, and you want to, you just never know. Burning bridges with media just isn't a really good idea. I remember having a client that did not want to go on Wendy Williams. Definitely not comparing my platform to that one. They also did not want to do Sister to Sister. If you guys remember Sister to Sister from back in the day. And I was like, you know what? You may not like the person that's interviewing you, but you do want to get your message across to their audience. So picking sides and, I don't like this. It's cool, and you should do what you want. But I'm just saying, as a publicist, my advice to people going on reality shows would be to make sure that you use as many options as possible to get your message across, especially if you're trying to promote things moving forward. Burning bridges is just not smart in entertainment at all. So that being said, we're going to get into this, Paul.
All right.
Paul, you made, I think, one of the biggest impressions, right, at the mixer.
Yeah.
Your PO.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You made one of the biggest impressions, and it was interesting to see. I think a lot of times we think, the first impression and how the edit was.
Right.
You don't really, it's like, what's going on with this guy? And, what's he talking about? But to see that you actually made it through the entire season.
Yeah.
And we've had quite a few of your cast members on, most recently Dakia, and everyone has had a lot of great things to say about you. And so I want to ask, when you watch this back, let's just start there. When you watched Ready to Love back,
okay,
what were you most surprised about from your own, from watching yourself on television?
I had no clue who that guy was on the TV screen until about episode maybe 8 or 9.
Wow.
Yeah, like a lot of that stuff, like especially the mixer,
Mm-hmm.
that was like heavily edited. I mean, like, it was they did a number with the editing, and I know people always say edit, edit, edit. So what I will say to that is this: I am responsible for the words that come out of my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
They are responsible for what you hear from the words that came out of my mouth. Right.
Mm.
And so, with that being said, like when I sat down and talked to Ace, the first thing I said to Ace was, "Hi, how are you doing?" I said, "Are you okay? You look, because Ace is real soft,
Mm-hmm.
very, soft on the outside." So I said, "Are you intimidated? Would it be okay if I sat down?" And that was the last word that you heard me say from that encounter was, "Are you intimidated?"
Yeah.
Right. So the editing kind of put a little extra to it, and to be honest with you, like by the end of that night, Ace and I Ace and I was just like we were like this.
Mm.
We're like what I mean throughout that night. So editing didn't really show you that, and I know that they have a story to tell. They have
Yeah.
they have to you know make it interesting. So I think that's what was kind of going on
Mm-hmm.
at first in that first mixer episode. But yeah, it was rough when I saw that guy on the screen. I'm like, oh, I don't know who that is.
Well, let's go back a little further. I'm always interested to hear. I ask people this all the time, like, what made you go on the show? And I think that we understand women are a little bit more dreamers when it comes to I may go on this show and find love, right?
Right.
You see a guy like yourself, you're obviously, tall, attractive, in a city where you all made it known that there were a lot more women than men. We heard
Right.
that first in that mixer, that statement there. What
Yeah.
what did you go on the show for? Did you really were you really looking for love? Were you looking for an opportunity to meet new people or see what was your motivation for the show?
Yeah. So okay. So initially, I never applied for the show. Like they reached
Okay.
out, and I thought, I've been meeting women in all different types of scenarios, right?
Mhm.
And I was still single at that moment. So I said, well, this might be a good opportunity to take a different approach to meet like-minded individuals, to
Okay.
sit and talk to them. We're all on the same page. We have the same goal. So maybe this will be the nail in the coffin.
Okay. So
Yeah.
why do you think that you were still single?
You mean in terms of the show before the,
Before the
oh,
show.
yeah. So like I've been in some pretty long-term relationships. Most of my relationships averaged about 5 years.
Okay.
And when things start to fall out of alignment, and you can't get through those tumultuous waters and things like that, somebody has to take the leg up and get out. And so that's what I did. It was never anything where I wanted to be single, like I liked to be single, things like
Mhm.
that. That wasn't the case. It was just like, uh, when you want to get to that next level, as when I say next level, I mean, get down on one knee and
Yeah.
propose.
Yeah.
You have to look at the bigger picture and say, okay, what am I getting? What am I not getting? Where are we aligned at? Where are we not aligned at?
Mhm.
You weigh these pros and cons, and then when the weight shifts and it's so heavy on one side and not the other, and you have those tough conversations, and you can't get above that,
Yeah.
then you have to move on. So that's where I.
That's true. What do you see? What is like the perfect fit for you? Because I think, with this show, the
Mhm.
great thing about it is it's showing people that are, have lived a little bit, right? So
Right.
you've probably loved and lost and been through some things. And so
Yeah, for
I
sure.
think a part of that is knowing what works for me.
Right.
And we saw with some of the other guys, like for instance, we saw the conversations with Demetrius and Sabrina about, okay, this dynamic does work for me, this dynamic doesn't work for me.
Right.
And some of the other couples, but for you, what is the dynamic that would be a good fit for Paul with a woman?
Right. Okay. So I'll tell you, and I have to step back to my marriage. When I was married young.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of things that I wasn't looking for in a wife. When I
Yeah.
first got married, I wasn't going in and trying to see what family dynamic they came from and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, what type of ethics that they have. It was just like, do you look good? You look good. Okay. It feels good to be with you. Let's move forward.
Yeah.
But I stayed in that marriage for some time, and along the way you learn.
Yeah.
And so some of the things I learned about myself is that I'm a go-getter. So I need somebody that they don't have to match that energy, but they have to have something close to that energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't really require a whole lot. Um, you know, the biggest thing for me is, how can this woman bring peace to the home? You know what I mean? How can we spend happy times together?
Right.
So things like that. I think that, somebody that doesn't accept the ceiling, and says, okay, we reached this ceiling, we need to move up to the next ceiling, and when we get to the roof, we leave the house and go
Mm-hmm.
to the roof. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Somebody that type of mentality, go getter and just smart, and at the same time, knows when to put a person in check, like myself.
I
Yeah.
like that about you. And actually, I'm going to play this clip because I like this clip. I saw this online,
Oh,
and
okay.
this is a clip from On with you speaking with Dakia about the fact that you appreciated how she handled herself. I want to say hey to Tiffany. Hey, Melanin Skin, Michelle, Lakeithia, welcome everybody. We are just getting started in this conversation, but this is a clip that did not air on the show
Oh,
that I really liked when I saw it online. Let's check this out.
Appreciate in a woman, because that to me shows strength.
Absolutely. But do it gracefully.
Right, exactly. And you were very very decent in the approach, right?
Thank you.
I mean, that was like the most relaxing cursing out that I've ever seen in my life.
A relaxing curse out.
Yeah.
Classy shade.
Yes,
Classy
very.
shade.
It was the classiest of all.
I like that because you said it was relaxing, but that just goes to what you just said now
yeah, no
of
doubt.
a woman being able to bring peace and to be able to like check the person without being over the top.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you don't have to really get nasty with a person to bring, what I mean, to bring resolution.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. Well, I like that. I like that. And Dakia actually talked with us about the fact that you came to her defense.
mhm.
You said that you appreciated the fact that she could speak up for herself, but
Yeah,
she appreciated the fact that she shared that with us, that you actually stood up for her. And I think sometimes it's weird. Sometimes when there is a woman that is very confident and comes across and takes care of her own, a lot of times men will think, oh, she got it. But the fact that you actually stood up for her when she was going through a situation that was inappropriate, she was very appreciative of that. And I appreciate that as well, just as a woman, having a man that sees she could be strong, but she still needs our protection.
yeah, no doubt. And you know what? And it's funny because I was in a relationship with somebody, and I'm driving my car. We're actually on our way out to somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a car just sitting in the middle of the street, and there was a lady just sitting there in that car, and it wasn't going nowhere. And I had to like I got myself in trouble because I was like, this lady needs somebody, and she's
Yeah.
like, you don't get out the car, don't get out the car. And I'm like, well, I had to fight with myself to not go outside of the car, but I did call the the medics and just emergency services, and that's just like second nature. Like especially when we're talking about a woman, and I have daughters.
Mm-hmm.
I would hope that any man walking around, if they saw my daughter in distress, that they would at least offer some sort of help.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, the situation that you helped Dakia with, I am going to say something about that because it's funny because sometimes I've been in the entertainment industry for a long time, longer than I want to say because it's so long. But I've seen a lot of times things happen and other men don't step up, right? Because they'll just like, oh, you can laugh that off. And I've had situations happen to myself where someone touches me inappropriately, and a lot of times other men will say, oh, he's just drunk, or he just and won't really take it seriously. And as a woman, I don't necessarily know if men know how it feels to be on the other side of that. You being
Yeah.
a father, do you think that gave you another level of kind of understanding with women, or has this always been how you are?
Well, yeah. So I think, I mean, I've always been, a caring person. I'm always the one that's going to check on your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and even if like when those tough times are there and those arguments are had, I'm going to circle back and say, listen, I might have been a little bit too rough in that conversation.
Yeah.
Let me let's talk sensible. So
Mm-hmm.
I've always had that that type of mentality in my heart and in my just my regular day-to-day life. um so yeah, it's just that's just been in me, and having daughters probably magnifies that a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, it's I would do that regardless. But yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, let's go back to this mixer. Paul, you get there. You're taller than everybody.
Yes.
That is brought up. You are taller than the other guys. There's a little comments about that. Who
Yeah.
are you attracted to? What are you thinking when you first get there and you see all these different people, different beautiful women? What's
Yeah.
going on in your head? Who are you initially physically attracted to on that first sighting?
Right. So what happened was, I watched when they gave me the opportunity to be a part of the cast.
Hmm.
I binge watched all of the seasons.
Okay.
So I binge watched all of from one to four, uh,
Okay.
whatever, one to three, whatever their catalog is for.
Yeah. I think it
Yeah.
was four because you guys are five, I think. Yeah.
Right. So I binge watched all of those, and I noticed that there was always 10 men, 10 women,
Hmm.
and so I was like, okay, what's up? We got seven. And I'm like, what other three?
Right.
But no other three. But initially, my the first person that I locked in, like, as a possibility, was Keena. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, she was the first
First
person.
one that went home. Yeah.
So, so then when she left, I started to just look, because like most of the ladies there were, they were all different.
Hmm.
Um, Keena was the type that had sort of that grit, that mentality, that just that drive and all of that stuff that I really like. And then the straight shooter.
Hmm.
But physically, Joy was attractive to me.
Hmm.
Um, Sabrina was attractive, and an Ace. So like
Yeah.
those were the ones that I was really like, well, let me find out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And at this point, you see everybody. You guys' season went extremely fast. It seems very,
Hmm.
very fast. What from that first initial um mixer? How
Hmm.
did the conversation start with the women that you did have attractions with? Because we didn't really see you interacting with any of them.
So yeah, no, and that see one thing about me is I am not really surface level, and when I talk deep. I get into it, and that's kind of one of the things that's one of the things that I was thinking about when you guys like probably didn't know that I even had daughters until the last episode.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, though, I'm so proud of them that you know what I mean. I lead with them. So
Hmm.
talk to, I'm going to say, yeah, I'm a father. I raised two daughters and whatever,
How
whatever.
old are your daughters?
My daughters are 27.
Oh, wow.
27, yes. So I raised them from,
Are they twins?
from this, yeah, they're twins.
Okay,
So
nice.
they were this big,
And
and
now they're grown women.
yes, exactly. And so like, I would have these conversations. Like, I remember at that brunch, me and Sabrina, we had a really intense conversation, and we really were, chopping it up, and,
Mhm.
about what life looks like, family, and, what type of backgrounds, you know what I mean, we come from. So those are the conversations that we would have.
Yeah.
I spoke to Precious at that time, and we had some good conversation in that brunch, and I had a little brief conversation with Tiffany at that time.
Okay.
So those were like the three ladies that I really had a chance to really,
Connect with.
yeah.
So we saw this. I'm going to ask you about all of these ladies, but definitely with Sabrina, the conversation with the two of you guys, where went she went out of her way to make sure you knew that she was only interested in you as a friend.
Yeah. So that's okay. That whole date was just, that was something else.
Okay.
And it was definitely edited. Um, you know, I would never. Okay, so one thing that they wanted me to ask her during that date was, "Do I bring you joy?" And that was a punchline for her to say that other stuff. And
Okay.
so for me, like, I would never talk to a woman that I don't really know that much and say, "Do I bring you joy?" Now,
Mm-hmm.
what did happen in that date is I said, "Okay, Sabrina, I had your phone number. You know what I'm saying? We text back and forth a little bit, and it's off to me. So I just, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste
Right.
my. But let's just, let's figure it out. Is this going anywhere or not?"
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty much the gist of the conversation. It wasn't like, it was just, yeah. The way that they edited made it really intense, and then at the end of it, they were like, they in my confessional, they asked me, were you hurt by Sabrina? And in the confessional, you repeated back, and I said I was not hurt by Sabrina, and they chopped it and said, made me say I was hurt by Sabrina. I was like, oh, here we go. So
So
yeah.
that's yeah, right. So we got that because the way that conversation when it seemed like she was letting you down.
Mhm.
Were you really interested in her? Were you just getting to know? Where were you at
I
before the date?
mean, so I was open, to her, just like any other woman.
Okay.
Like, she was not on my radar any more or any less than any of the other ladies out there. So, it's just like process of elimination. You're
Yeah.
going through this process, so you want to figure out, is this person for me? If not, fine, I'll move on to the next. And I was cool with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I knew that, for me, since, I was being very intentional about being in that process, I didn't want to sit there and waste time,
Yeah.
uh, especially in that environment where, it's moving like this.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really have a lot of time to
Yeah.
sit there and play around. Um, so that's what, kind of ended.
So you guys hadn't been on any actual dates outside
No,
of that, right?
no, I've never been on any dates with her at all.
Okay.
Other than, like, I think we had a group date, but that was it. And that was when Cornelius and Precious and Tiffany was there. But
Okay.
yep.
So let's talk about Precious because I think everybody was surprised um to see what happened at the reunion.
Mm,
We're not really prepared for that. That kind of came out of left field.
yeah,
But we did see you guys have somewhat of a connection, and it seemed like
yeah,
for a short period of time, maybe a couple of weeks,
mhm,
you guys seemed to be each other's top, right?
yeah,
And then things went left when some of the other men did not feel like she was there for the right reasons, or maybe some of the other men just weren't connecting with her, or whatever the case was.
right.
What is your perspective on that? Because we saw Demetrius have a conversation about her, and it felt like she took it super personal from him,
Mm.
and it played over into the reunion. So where do you kind of weigh in on that?
So okay, so I feel like this here, and people were, I've like read some comments online where folks was like, yeah, he should have fought for Precious. She was in the lounge, fighting for him and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And to those folks, I would say this: I was the only reason why Precious was there for that many episodes. And I'll say this because Precious had no connections with anybody, zero. Not with Demetrius, not with Laverne, not with Tori, not with Clifton, not with Eric, Donovan, no one.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a point where, I had a conversation with Precious and I said, Precious, be open to the process. I
Mm-hmm.
said, no, you're trying to, what I mean, rock with me and all of that, but be open.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, that was left in her hands to save herself. Like
Why
there's,
do you think? Why do you think that she didn't have any other connections with any of the other guys?
well, I mean, I think that sometimes you have to turn down and you have to read the room and you have to address people the way that they are in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Some people like their steaks well done. Some people like, not so well done, medium rare. So
Yeah.
you have, check the temperature to see who you're talking to. Everybody, doesn't buy into, the innuendos and that sort of thing. And like, so for me, um, I got and I understood who she was as a person, but at the same time, long term, that for me may not work well
Mm-hmm.
with who I am because I'm in some respects pretty reserved.
Okay.
But I do like the outgoing personality that she has because it's
Mm-hmm.
fun, but at the same time, you have to shut it down enough to make it digestible for those that are around. And
That's
she
true.
didn't do
Well, that was spoken very nicely. Like you said,
that.
turn it down to make it digestible. It was not digestible at the reunion.
No.
Were you shocked at her behavior and accusations?
So okay, and here's what you guys have to realize. We did that reunion in February,
Mm-hmm.
and I think at the time the energy that she was giving Demetrius was misdirected, and that was supposed to be my energy
Okay.
because what she was seeing on television was we were going into the men's lounge, and I was never saying her name.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I ever did on television. Do you know what I mean? But she was there for a reason, obviously. And so in that men's lounge, she felt like at the time, oh, you were shading me. You weren't, you weren't even standing up.
Standing up for me.
Right. And so, I think Demetrius was the first person to get the gateway opened up on him. And then that's where it ended, but I think it was misdirection.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, what about her insinuating that you were not on the show for the right reasons?
I think that was oh, she said that?
I thought she did.
I thought that Tina said that.
Okay. Oh, you know what? You're right. Tina
Yeah.
did say that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's segue over to that. What about what what is your
So,
thoughts on that? Because she was very, yeah, that was
yeah,
Tina. She was very upset.
right. So
And
yeah, there are a few things I couldn't understand. Like one, like I had no beef with her all at the end of the show. And to be honest with you, I legit thought that production planted that question or planted that to her to get a reaction out of me because, you know, I'm so, laid back, logical
Mhm.
and things like that. And I was like, when I was just as shocked as everybody else. Like, when I turned over and turned around and said those couple of words,
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute, wait, what? I had no idea that was coming. But yeah, she mentioned that I was on there for a book deal.
Mhm.
And to date, I have not written a book. I have not authored anything other than, the paintings that's on my wall.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't have a book coming out. I don't know anything about a book. So I didn't understand where that information even came from. And then she said, I think that I was trying to get her to self-eliminate
Yeah.
with me and then we leave the show together. And then, later on, I guess she said on another interview or whatever that she said she was self-eliminating, and I said, oh yeah, well, we should do it together. And I'm like, that conversation never happened either. So I didn't know where that stuff
Did
came.
you guys have a connection at all? Because we didn't see.
Yeah. So initially, like when we were at that beach house, yeah, that day we were at the beach house and we were talking, and I thought, okay, I typically won't date somebody that young. Like I just won't, because I know where I was at when I was young. So
that age, right?
yeah, and I'm like on some other stuff right now. So I was like, but we're in this process, let's be open. And we had a really dope conversation, and that like took place for about an hour. And I was shocked that they even allow that to happen. But it was such a dope conversation. I was like, okay, I get it. She's a different level, and she seems like, she was very mature in her thoughts, her conversation at that time. So we had that connection there. And then fast forward, we get on the phone, and I think we had like 3 conversations. And then, when the cameras were off and all of that stuff, and you kind of get to see who people are in the natural world, there were just things that I didn't like or appreciate in the conversations that we had. So I just backed off. And I think when I came to the X date, I was already checked out then. And then, after hearing the X, I was even more checked out. And there were things that was leading up to that where Demetrius showed up on this Meet the X date, which I had no problem with him being there. I mean, the process. The thing is that she was priming me up, saying, "Oh, I can't stand Demetrius. I was on the phone with Demetrius, and I called him your name 3 times, or 4 times, or whatever, and he can't resolve issues and problems." And basically called him a narcissist. Said he's like her baby, so all this stuff.
Yikes!
So right, and so I'm thinking like, well, wow, you really must don't like the guy. But then he shows up on the Meet the X date, and I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me. It's like, here. And then when I saw Demetrius, we had a conversation after that, and I went to him and I said, listen, man, I don't want you to feel no type of way, but I just, it didn't make sense why you were there. I didn't want you to think that I was looking at you in a way that I'm trying to size you up. And he's like, I didn't think that, but you did. He's like, I was trying to figure out like what was the problem, and
what was the energy, right?
Right, and so we had that conversation.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people could kind of relate to Tina not really handling the show well, because a lot of people are not used. I mean, there are some people that are there for the cameras, and then some people are really not prepared for it. So
right.
How did you adjust to that? Because you're dating, but it's dating with cameras there. You're doing things a specific way. It sounds like they're telling you certain things to say, certain things not to say.
Right.
What was that process like for you?
So for me, anything they told me to say, I ignored it. I wasn't going to say anything. I mean, just because, listen, if you want me, you won't get me, and it has to come from my mouth.
Yeah.
I would never repeat anything that they asked me to say. Simple as that. But at first, the first thing was when I walked in that door in the mixer, and I saw like they had the whole camera crew there, and it was like all these cameras, and I'm like, oh boy, okay, it's real now.
Yeah.
But after a while, I think you start to phase them out. One of the things that I was on this date with Ace, and nobody ever saw this date. This was like the date got so real and so deep, like we forgot the cameras was even there. But we both were on that set, on that on that date. Damn, I was damn near ready to cry. She was crying, and I was like, "You can't do this to me, because I'm about to fall into this trap," And yeah, so it was one of the dopest dates that I've ever had in that in that experience. But yeah, once we forgot about the cameras that even being there, we were able to be vulnerable.
And really,
Yeah.
why didn't it sounds like you and Ace had a real connection? Why do you think why didn't it work for you all past that?
Well, okay, so there is I guess a storytelling that they have to do. That's number one.
Mhm.
Number two, there were people telling Ace, that's going to be my man, so back off type
Who
of.
were those people, Paul?
Well, Precious was telling her that he's going to be my man, and this and that, and Ace is very respectful.
Mm-hmm.
Wanna, and
Yeah.
like, well, I'm gonna give you the lane so you could do you. And at the time, she had Laverne as
Yeah.
and then I started to see like kind of their connection taking off with Laverne,
Mm-hmm.
her, and I told Laverne, even though we were in the gentleman's lounge, I'm like, hey, I put Ace was in my top a couple of times, so I was like, I'm sorry, bro, but
I gotta go for mine.
yeah,
Ace has like Erica Badu energy,
yes, I mean,
which will make men fall. I do know that. I've been
yeah,
around Erica. She just has this energy that is so soft and inviting and
right,
calm. And like you said earlier, that peace, that peacefulness that is
yeah,
very, very attractive to men on a mature men, on
yeah.
a different level.
And one thing about Ace is, she isn't just, Ace from, relaxation. Ace be bringing that thunder, because she got it in her, but
Yeah.
she doesn't lead with that. She's definitely probably one of the, like, if anybody from that whole process I could say is a complete, you know, um person, like
Mhm.
she's complete for me. Like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, she's dope.
Nice. Nice. Well, all right. So if you guys are just tuning in, this of course is Reality Check, and we are working our way through wrapping up Ready to Love Potomac so we can get ready for Miami soon because it's hot, but we got some loose ends, and Paul is here helping us tie some of those up. We've talked about his connection with Precious. I do want to ask you again, Paul, on that.
Mhm.
So before Precious left the show, because it did seem like you guys were really, from what we saw, doing really well, and that you were kind of able to maybe calm her down, and she was kind of, we saw a fun side with you with Precious that we didn't get a chance to see
Mhm.
earlier on. So why do you think that didn't work? You said earlier that might not have worked long term, but what was it about that situation that just kind of fizzled out for you?
So okay, so when Precious was like just I would say, like, if we go back to the beach,
Mm,
like there was a lot of stuff going on, and I was cool with her trying to establish connections and things like that. But it was just like a lot of stuff, going on with that, and I was just like, you know, remember, if you're looking for somebody that you want to spend the rest of your life with, ultimately.
mhm, mhm.
So, when you start thinking in that, realm, it's like, all right, I don't know if we, if we
If
align.
this would be long, this could be, and that's okay. I think it's unfortunate because on the show, people feel like if someone set, first of all, Demetrius we saw was set up to deliver that message that came from more than one person.
Yeah,
But it doesn't mean that you're not a good fit. Doesn't mean if you're not ready to love on the show does not mean you're not ready to love. It just means maybe
right.
the person's not there.
Yeah, for sure.
But it was taken kind of personally. All right, so moving on from Precious. So then we see, because I feel like you kind of went from different situation to different situation
Mhm. Yep.
to different situation to the
Yep.
end with Dakia. Let's talk about that.
Okay.
And Carmen,
Yeah.
the Dakia and Carmen um debacle, I guess, between the two ladies.
Right.
Carmen was a curveball.
Mhm.
And you said earlier that you realized that there were only 7 women. So when they start throwing curveballs in, we got Tina, we got Carmen. What
Yeah.
did you think about the two of them first when you saw them? And then let's talk about your connection, if there was one, with Carmen.
So yeah. So I met both Carmen and Tina at the same time, and that was at that beach house.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, damn, like why was y'all holding out? Like, why y'all holding out with the kid? You know, um, it was it was definitely a moment for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then, they set me up real nice because when Tommy walked in, we stood like side by side. So Carmen or Tina was on one side, and then Carmen was alongside of her. So
Mm-hmm.
Tommy's there, so all I see is them two, and I'm trying to listen to what Tommy's saying.
But you can't really focus.
Right. So I was like, well, you know what? We'll have to establish some conversation later on out of here. And
Mm-hmm.
and so that's when I started to talk to Carmen a little bit, and then we had some phone conversations, and we had a lot of dates.
Okay, let's talk about the dates. Obviously, Carmen has all the bells and whistles that the men like, as the song says.
Right.
All the things a man likes, and she definitely came ready to stake her claim and play the game. What was you guys' connection like, and what was it about Carmen besides the physical that you were attracted to?
Yeah, so Carmen was really my strongest connection on that whole and in the whole entire process. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, for sure. Um, I felt like um, she had she had that grit, that drive,
Mhm.
and then she also, knows how to get to it, with, what I mean? She
The
knows how.
pickle.
Yeah.
When she said, I wish I had that clip. When she said, when she asked if you wanted her pickle, I was just like,
Oh,
Paul is not prepared for Carmen.
yeah, and that was the thing too, because it was funny that the whole pickle situation. That just to talk about that. So people that know me know I hate pickles. I hate them. And I had ordered a crab cake, and then they brought it out with the pickle, and I'm like, they put that stupid thing on my plate. She was like, you don't like it? You don't want it? I was like, nah, I would love to give you my pickle if that's what you want. And then I had to, when I said that, it was like, oh, why did I say that? And then, she said, well, you want to feed it to me? And then I was really caught off guard.
Yeah.
And
You looked caught off guard, Paul. You looked
whew,
looked like
yeah,
I done fell into something that's good and I didn't even really know how I got here.
right. So I'm a trooper, so I'm like, yeah, I'll go with it, and so but she had that banter, you
Yeah.
know, that's something that I appreciate, because she wasn't really stiff, she wasn't, like holding back. She, brought it, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that when a person, can be that open.
Absolutely. So talk why do you think that, because we saw the little competition between Carmen and Dakia. How did you and Dakia even start to, because that you've been what we saw the entire season,
Hmm.
there's nothing there. And then when it was apparent that Joy and Clifton was totally removed from the situation, from
Hmm.
what we saw as the viewers, it seemed like, okay, now Dakia has kind of moved on to Paul.
Hmm.
And there's a little bit of, tension between her and Carmen. And I was wondering, like, where did that come from?
All right, so I think it started out with the meet the homie date. And
Hmm.
um, so initially it was supposed to be me, Carmen, and Tina on that. And I think they sent Tina over to Donovan's date.
Hmm.
And her and Donovan, I don't think they really had a connection, Tina and Donovan. So
Right.
what happened was production was like, this will be interesting. Let's let's go put those two ladies over there. And
Hmm.
at the time, the key and I, we never had any dates, but we did talk about it. I was like, maybe we should have one just to see, what's what.
Hmm.
And this was early on, though. This was like at the very beginning, so
Hmm.
I never did get a chance to have a date. So it was like, All right. And then she was there. And I'm like, okay, well, it's all to the good. And that's kind of what started. I think it was like the perfect opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of drama.
Yeah, definitely a little drama. What do you say? Because there was Carmen mentioned that you told her that you weren't necessarily physically attracted to Dakia. Where did that come? I'm gonna say,
Yeah.
Paul. I don't know if what that conversation was like, or if there was a conversation with you and Carmen, but I
Right.
did believe that only because you hadn't gone on a date with her, and it was we could see the physical attraction from you to Carmen, even you and Precious, and we
Right.
just, to me, it's like a man is not going to wait until the end to be with someone that he's really physically attracted to.
Right. So, so I told Carmen, the conversation was,
Hmm.
Carmen asked me, what type of women do you like?
Hmm.
And I told her what my typical woman looks like.
Hmm.
And so, which is, about between between 5'3", you know what I mean? Maybe 5'5", something like that, nice and, thick, stuff like that. So, so she was, oh, okay. Um, and then she asked me, so, you know, is that, is that the kid? And I'm like, well, and, I just kind of like didn't go there.
Yeah.
And that's why Carmen said, when Tommy asked her, well, did he say that about Dakia? He asked her a direct question.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like, well, he said that about some women. So, I mean, but I think typically in the real world, like, by design,
Hmm.
necessarily, approach Dakia, not saying that there's anything wrong with her, because I think that, you know, the way that people move and, there's other things that are very attractive that make people attractive, like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But it's like if I was going on a go-to mission,
Yeah.
then that wouldn't be the route that I would take. But we're in a different process.
Yeah.
So,
That's true. But do you think that men, or yourself, I will just ask you about you,
mhm,
don't do how important is it? Because I think the older we get, the more mature we get, we try to realize that connection and chemistry is more than just physical attraction.
no doubt. Yeah.
But
Hmm.
it is still very important, right? Because
Yeah.
you can have a woman that has all the substance that you need and that classiness, but you also want to have that fire as well, right?
So I feel like physical is the initial buy-in,
Yeah.
and then the other attributes sort of sets the stage to which way this is going to go.
Hmm.
Well, yeah, you can be physically great looking and all of that, but if you're not aligned,
Right.
or if there's just things about you that I can't appreciate, then then the whole thing is off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why did you and Dakia continue down that road initially if you knew that's not really my
Right.
stilo?
So, okay, yeah, that's a good question. Initially, we went out on a few dates, and then I think after the getaway, because I think that's when her and Clifton sort of,
Yeah. That
uh,
came to a complete end, right?
right. And so we left there, and then you'll see that next date when she and I was sitting down,
Mhm.
and then there was a date with Joy in the same segment,
Mhm.
like a date with Clifton and Joy in the same segment. So they were paying for.
They were.
Right. So in that date that I was on with Dakia, the reason why you didn't see the ending to that date is because I asked Dakia, I was like, how would you feel if your process ended today? What would be your next move? Like, how would that serve you?
Mhm.
I would take some time off and, regroup. It's been a lot, but then, I would eventually, get back out there and start dating.
Mhm.
Okay, well, that's good to hear because I'm self-eliminating. And I self-eliminated in the middle of that date, got up, took off the microphone, then that was that. So you never seen the ending because of that.
Wow.
Right. Yeah. So, and then I think that I talked to production in the parking lot,
Mm-hmm.
and and then I did have a conversation with Dakia, and it was like, okay, she's like, you know what, just go through the process, and we'll see what happens. So I think the next day was the brunch where Carmen brought up all of that stuff,
Yeah.
and and I was like hoping to be, well, I was thinking that I would be eliminated that on that during that brunch,
Yeah.
because there was supposed to be an elimination to take place then,
Mm.
and that didn't happen, and I was like, dang. So
How did you feel about Dakia sharing that?
um
Not Dakia, I'm sorry, Carmen sharing that
I,
that conversation.
you know what, like, so in that moment I was like, I was put off guard because it was weaponized,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I was like, well, darn, you have to do that. I mean, and I get it. Maybe I expressed to you that I like a woman to look this way,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, this is like a punch in the gut for her.
Yeah.
I'm the real problem. Like, talk to me,
Yeah.
her, you know. And one of the things that was funny during that meet the homie date, um, my friend, when Chill Bill came in, the first thing he said to the kid is like, "Oh, you ain't thick like how my man like him." And
Yikes.
yeah, I was like, come on, man. And it's funny they didn't show. I thought they would have shown
Well,
that.
I'm glad they didn't show
Yeah,
that.
yeah. But, I mean,
Jeez.
off of the stuff that I was seeing, the type of
Why
editing.
would Chill Bill say that, Paul? You better tell Chill Bill.
I,
Don't do that.
bro, you can't just. I'm like, he's like, well, I mean, no, that's how you used to be. I'm like, oh yeah, good catch in the after.
No, dude. No, Chill Bill. Your name can't be Chill Bill. You coming in hot like that. That's
Right.
not cool. Wow. So okay, so Carmen, for you to say, Carmen, you and Carmen had the best connection. How
Yeah.
did you feel when you saw her and Donovan kind of getting closer and that moving on to the point where they were the final?
Yeah, so I was cool. I was checked out by that time. I was checked out of the whole process, so I really didn't care.
Yeah.
Like, I really didn't care. I was like, you know what? I'm done with all of this. Good for him and them.
Hmm.
You know, I was just like checked out because it seems like sometimes, like, okay, so for me, like, if you notice how I moved in this whole process, right? If I seen something that wasn't going to work for me, I got out.
Hmm.
And I'm not the guy that's going to sit there and beat the dead horse and
Yeah.
hope it wakes up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, when you see some things and you start to see those signs, and that's just in any beginning of a relationship, you have to start evaluating that early, because you see people that'll hang in there and they think, oh, it'll get better over time, and it just gets worse and worse, and then you're in
Yeah.
the,
It does not.
yeah, and you went down this big road, and now you got all this time invested, and now you're just saying, oh, but we have so much time, even though we're not good with each other. So,
Mm-mm.
yeah.
How did you? But how with hearing this and even with Dakia, her side as well. How did it feel going through that final process and then you guys both choosing yourself? Did you have a chance to talk to her so that she knew
Yeah.
beforehand, hey, this is what we're going to do? Because it's still kind of like, there's so many opportunities. The kid carried herself so beautifully throughout this process
Hmm.
between you and Carmen, Dakia, Paul and Carmen, that little circle, and then Dakia and Clifton and Joy. It seemed like she was constantly getting on the other end, short end of the stick. So how did you feel? Did you guys have a chance to talk so that she didn't feel kind of blindsided by that? Or
Yeah, yeah. I was just like, I called her up and was like, look, we got this thing going on tomorrow, and I'm choosing myself and you are too as well, right? And she said, yeah. But the telltale sign for you as the viewers should have known, because I said this. Um, I was not putting on a suit. I was not getting dressed. I wasn't going to make it look fancy and all of this stuff when I was just coming to take care of business and go home.
Yeah.
And, I didn't want to. And that was one of the things, too. Like, I had flowers in my hand. And if anybody that knows me, like folks that know me,
Mm-hmm.
give flowers at all. I will never give a woman flowers at all because, and that's just, I'm going to tell you,
Okay.
because I can't work out what flowers mean, right? So, in other words, flowers is something that I feel you should give to people who are dead because they live and then they die and then you get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
Something I would give a woman something that she's going to have forever as a gift over flowers.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm not mad at that.
Right.
So you had flowers. You guys went through the process,
Mm-hmm.
already understanding what you were going to do. You come to the reunion, and everything is popping off. I'm just asking you as a person watching all that.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think? And I know it's been quite a bit of time now. But what was your thoughts when you were watching just that whole interaction with Dakia and Clifton and Joy?
So, okay, you mean as a viewer or as being in the room for real? Because
Well, being in there in the room for
oh
real, because we saw as a viewer, we were like, whoa, like,
yeah, so I was just wishing that Dakia, because there was things that I think you guys didn't see.
mhm,
I was just like wishing that she's just let it go because she kept pressing the fact that me and Clifton did have a connection, and you didn't see that. And Joy was like, how? Like, do you know what his favorite color is? Like, do you know anything? And she said her favorite color, his favorite color is red. And she's like, no, that is not his favorite color. And it wasn't his favorite color. And she kept, just going on and on about, how, they had this connection. And it was just like, just you can just simply check out and say, look, guys, I'm happy for what you guys have. You found love, and then that's it. And I
yeah,
think where the editing kicked in and made it look like Joy was being, rough and tough. Because
yeah,
Joy was just simply saying, like, there was so much frustration. I could understand, all of that frustration coming in when we're like, look, we're together. Like you guys, I mean, because if you saw Clifton and Joy from the mixer,
hmm,
where I got it from the mixer on down, uh,
yeah,
you knew that they were going to be strong. There was nothing
yeah,
that was going to happen with that, like nothing at all. So
yeah,
that said, it was just like, you know, just pull the plug on it already and move on. And
yeah,
yeah, so I think that what you guys saw was, it made it look like Joy was like a real mean girl.
hmm,
All of this stuff that was going on and on behind the scenes that you guys didn't see. So I think that was just kind of them, just, messing around with the story a little bit.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, I mean, yeah, it was it was rough because I was like right there and I'm just like, oh, like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I wanted to say, check out, you know what I mean? But there's nothing I can do with that.
Yeah. No, that's interesting because I think as the viewer, we saw that with them, right? So we saw from the beginning, like, okay, they locked in. Like, that's it.
Right.
And even as time went on, and Dakia and Clifton were still kind of in communication from what we saw,
Mhm.
it was still not the same as with he and Joy. Like certain things you can just feel that chemistry comes across the camera. So it did feel like that. It did look to us from the edit that there was a bit of like bullying a little bit, and the fact that it was like trying to make it seemed like there was a lot going on to make the Kia feel bad. But again, that's just what we saw on the other side. So I appreciate having that,
Yeah.
having that voice from someone that was actually there. Because we just looked like it just looked like to us Dakia was getting beat up. Like, damn.
Yeah. Nah, but she kept saying, like, she just kept going in. Like, but we had a connection. I'm like,
Yeah, let it go.
right.
Any when you look back and like you said, you had a chance to look at this and see that you didn't really see the Paul that we see even in other interviews and when you would do lives with other people, we saw a different side of you that we didn't really see on the show.
No doubt.
Is there anything that if you could tell yourself right now, getting ready to go into the process, anything you would have done differently, anything that you kind of said, man, I could have handled that differently?
So I thought about that, right? And I feel like, I mean, knowing what I know now, the only way that I could have changed, I guess, the outcome that the viewers would have seen,
Mm-hmm.
I had lied to the producers. And, because I feel like they knew, like everything that I said that I stood for, it was reversed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and even like my first opening statement when I come into the mixer and I say the energy that I'm looking for from a woman has to be sexual. And I'm like, I didn't say that. I said the energy that I need from a woman has to be, she has to be smart, sophisticated, and, go getter, this, and that. And they said, what about sexual energy? And I said, well, that has to be there, obviously, but, it can't be it. And they chopped all that good stuff out. So I would have had to lie, and, maybe finesse the situation a little bit. So there's nothing that I don't think I would have done differently.
Okay.
It was just based off of how they wanted to tell the story.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately for me, you guys didn't get to see who I am up front.
Mm-hmm.
You started getting those tidbits as the process went on.
Towards the end. Well,
Right.
the fact that you stayed to the end, I think is telling because it's and you can't get to the end without having being able to
Right.
actually connect on a different level. And the way you came off at the mixer, I didn't think you're going to be there. I didn't think you'll be there.
Man,
I was surprised. I was
you
like,
know,
we
and
saw something. There must be something we didn't see because Paul is still here.
you know what? So, coming in, watching it watching it the same time you guys watch it, I saw that, and I'm like, you mean to tell me I got 12 weeks of this? 12 weeks? Come on, man. Yeah.
Well, is there anybody, because there were a lot of women, like you said, Keena and even Tiffany, just a lot of women that left early on because the process does move very fast. Is there anyone that you think maybe I should have put a little bit more intention or focused a little bit more on this person as opposed to where I put my focus?
Um, so I didn't really, so that was one of the things, like I didn't zero in on any one particular person.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to check in with all of the ladies, and I had I had every opportunity to do that. I've had um, multiple dates. I know I had more dates than anybody else on the show, literally.
Okay.
Yeah, so I had like
Was
enough.
that by design? How did that happen? Did production give you more dates, Paul?
They
Because you're
gave
taller?
Listen, they put me on, and I'm telling you, Crystal, I would we would have these dark days where we didn't shoot, and those were the only times that I wasn't shooting. Now there was other folks that didn't get dates on certain days or whatever. It
Mhm.
didn't matter. They wanted content, content, content. They had me on. Like I said, I dated Ace 3 times. I dated Precious 4 dates. I've been on 4 dates with Joy,
Oh,
4 dates with Carmen. Like it's been a lot.
yeah,
So
see, so if you did all those dates with the other women and you did not go on dates with Dakia, then I wish that you guys had not have gone out at the end. Like that
yeah,
just is,
well, and I requested those dates in the beginning,
yeah.
but they didn't give them to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they sort of wrote that story the way they wanted it to play out. But to get back to your question, yeah, I had a ample opportunity to get the feel for pretty much everybody.
Okay. So no regrets when it comes to the women.
Not at all, none.
Is there anything that you learned, in this process besides how to avoid, maybe how to deal with editing a little bit better?
Yeah, yeah,
Anything else that you learned about yourself that you would take with you in
absolutely,
dating?
absolutely. I learned to allow people to be who they are, to meet them there.
Mm-hmm.
Don't consider them to be who you want them to be.
Mm-hmm.
Be who they are and understand that.
Yeah.
Um, you know, that was one of the bigger things because I came in there and I'm like, wait a minute, man, I do this all the time. I'm, I'm a natural with this. I'm gonna say these words, but then this is gonna happen. You know,
Right.
and so I never want to be that guy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, people are saying that the streets are saying that you are booed up now. Is that, can you give us some clarity on that? Are we see a woman on your social? Are you booed up? Where are we at with this?
Yeah,
Well,
right now, I'm just focusing on rinsing the process out of me and trying to just get back to the real world. I do plan on whenever I have like major updates to my dating life, I will be sharing that with my social media platform.
so you don't have anything to share today, is what you're saying?
Today is not, yeah, not today.
Not today. Okay. All right. Anything that you would do like that, how would you change the way you interact with women, if at all, from this process?
Probably just listen a little bit more. I know that, sometimes I like to get in there and get right to the meat.
Mm-hmm.
People, they like, hold on, let's have some potatoes first. So, you
Little
know,
appetizer before the meal. Ease into it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, just kind of ease into it. But this comes from, I mean, at this stage in the game, I don't have a lot of time to waste.
Yeah.
If I'm not going anywhere, I want to know rather quickly.
So
So
you do want to get married though?
absolutely, that's the end goal. Like that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I believe if you are trying and you're intentional, then you will definitely, the universe has no choice but to bring that to you.
no doubt about it. No doubt about
So,
it. I'm
yeah, well, I appreciate you stepping in, better late than never. We had a great conversation. I think that fans really enjoyed you.
oh
And I think that is a testament to the fact that you actually carry conversation very well, Paul.
yeah. I, um,
Hey, that's not a talent that everybody has. So,
so I do want to mention one thing though.
okay.
So just so folks know, one of the bigger takeaways that I have from the show is the tagline that I created because I deliver,
The
right?
PO, yes.
P.O. I deliver. So I'm building on top of that. So now I set up the Cause I Deliver Foundation, which is
Okay.
going to be doing charitable donations and a lot of philanthropy and random acts of kindness.
Hmm.
I just got the foundation started. So yeah, you guys can look for a whole bunch of good deeds and a lot of philanthropy that's going to be coming everybody's way soon.
What is when you say philanthropy, is there a specific thing that you want to really be, that you are involved with, that you want to give
So
towards?
yeah, so I just want to be able to help folks that are in need, like people that may not have, but may be in a circumstance and may not have a way out. Um,
Hmm.
do my part on trying to bring resolution to that for them.
Is that women, men, everyone?
That's women, men, particularly though my focus is in the brown communities.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, we hope when you get that going, you will come back and share with us here. You have my contact information, Paul, so you
Yes, I do.
don't
Contact
don't
us.
do anything. Reach out. We definitely love to support anything that you guys have going on. And I do like what I do like about the cast from DC and Potomac is you guys are really active and doing a lot. A lot of people are doing other things besides just trying to be on reality TV. And that's,
Yeah, for
to me,
sure.
that's admirable because a lot of times people are just focused on, I want to be a celebrity. And it's like,
Right.
Skip, you're doing good work. This is a great platform. It allows you to be able to be more influential. So that's, that's the positive of this. And Tina put you on blast for the book. Still no book. That may not be a bad idea.
I know, maybe, 2027, somewhere around there, 25 years or something. Let me make some bigger impacts and then maybe I'll write the book.
Hey, I would, my suggestion as a publicist would be write that book immediately.
Oh, okay, well, okay.
Don't wait. This news cycle is fast. Write the book while you have people out there that are interested in it. And she set it up. So
Yeah.
hopefully that's something I would definitely consider doing that and doing that quickly. I mean, this experience that you guys have, it's a unique experience. And I think from watching yourselves on television, seeing the comments from people, and I think it's something that from a man's perspective would be very, very useful. So my suggestion is to write the book.
Hey, you know what? Maybe I'll write and name it "Cause I Deliver."
Because I'm saying, hey, you got to do what you got to do. Do what you got to do. Well, I appreciate you, Paul. We, like I said, people enjoyed it. I appreciate you coming on and being authentic and answering the questions. I think that I am glad that you and Dakia both made that choice. I think sometimes it's not. It's unfortunate to hear that a lot of things were pushed when it's because of storylines and all that. And I get it; they have to do a certain amount, but sometimes I think it would be just as great a storyline if they were just allowed things to move authentically, because seeing a person self-eliminate on a date is something that we all would love to see. So
tell them to release tapes.
Yeah, that probably would have actually went viral a little bit more. So but we wish you the best, and we will definitely be checking in. Paul, let people know your social media if they're not. Well, they can see it there at 100 site. What does that mean, Paul?
Oh, that's because I'm everywhere you want to be, like Visa, uptown, downtown, all around.
See, you got to do, Paul, you need to write a book because you got a lot of them. You got one-liners ready to go. 100 sightings. You guys follow him. Make sure that you're locked in. And like I said, Paul, please come back and share when you get your nonprofit and when you get that book written. Come on back.
Yep, will do.
All right. Have a good evening. Thank you so much.
We'll see you. Thank you.
All right.
All righty.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for hanging out with me. I hope you all had a great weekend. My weekend was amazing. I told you guys last week my son graduated from college with his dual masters, and it was an amazing weekend. We do have, I think there's one or two more interviews coming through from Ready to Love. So stay tuned. We'll be back on Friday. We also have an interview with Ronnie and Shamari DeVoe. They are on the new VH1 couples retreat. So we had a chance to talk to them. Can't wait to share that with you. But stay tuned. If you have not done so already, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to this channel. If you're watching on Facebook, make sure that you like this and share it so that people are able to hear Paul's take on everything. I actually agree with him with what he said about Dakia. We think, it was obvious that the communication with Clifton and Joy was just there. And I like Dakia's interview very much, but I think it was very clear to everybody that those two were just meant to be. I really hope they are able to stay together and we get our first Ready to Love couple that actually is able to make this work. But yeah, so you guys stay tuned. I'll be back on Friday for a recap Friday evening. And of course, again on Monday. I love you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.